Hi there, everyone. I have a new book for you. This one is called Spaghetti and Meatballs for All, a mathematical story written by Marilyn Burns. This book is so good, but I will tell you, there is a lot of dialogue in here. Dialogue is where characters are talking back and forth, back and forth. And as I've been preparing to read this book to you, I was trying to come up with voices for all the characters, and it got so confusing. So I'm not going to be able to do fun little voices, but it is a really good book. I read this book to Addison and Kinsley, and Addison gave me an idea for a challenge at the end of the book. So I hope you enjoy it. Spaghetti and Meatballs for All. If I can get there. So I'll show you the pictures and then I will read. One fine day, Mrs. Comfort was so busy tending to the lettuce patch in her garden. You know, it's been a long time since we've seen the family, she said to her husband. You're right, answered Mr. Comfort. He was stretched out on a bench doing what he liked to do best in a vegetable garden, reading a cookbook. Maybe it's time for a family reunion, Mrs. Comfort said. A wonderful idea, Mr. Comfort agreed. Let's see. Menus. Dinner for 2, serves 4 to 6. Banquets. How many people would we be having? He asked. The Comforts called their children. They called their parents. Mrs. Comfort called her brother. Mr. Comfort called the next door neighbors who were almost like family. Everyone could come. That's 32 people all together, including us, Mr. Comfort said. What could we possibly fit in our oven and still feed 32 people? He wondered out loud. Why not make your famous spaghetti and meatballs? Asked Mrs. Comfort. Good thinking, said Mr. Comfort. Now, what about renting some tables and chairs? Asked Miss Comfort. She got out the telephone book. Have y'all ever heard of a telephone book? Two weeks later, the big day arrived. Mr. Comfort got up very early and spent all morning cooking. He baked 16 loaves of garlic bread and made 8 pounds of fresh pasta. He simmered 8 quarts of spaghetti sauce and rolled 96 meatballs. Mrs. Comfort picked all her ripe tomatoes, cucumbers, and lettuce for salad. While Mrs. Comfort waited for the tables and chairs she had rented, she drew out a seating plan. See that? Then she got out the dishes and the silverware, the glasses, the tablecloths, and some vases. When the rental company arrived, they were 1 chair short. Don't worry, said Mr. Comfort. You'll think of something. How many tables? How many chairs? How many people are coming to this party? Mrs. Comfort found a folding chair. Now the tables were ready. Each had 4 place settings, 4 chairs, and a vase with lovely cut flowers. Mr. Comfort came out of the kitchen balancing 8 plates of celery and olives, 1 for each table. Just after noon, the Comfort's daughter and her husband arrived with their 2 children. Welcome, said Mrs. Comfort. Come sit, said Mr. Comfort. Let's push 2 tables together "So you can sit with us," suggested the Comfort's daughter. "But there won't be room," Mrs. Comfort said. "But there is," said Mr. Comfort. "There's plenty of room and plenty of garlic bread." Everyone was just about to sit down when a car pulled into the driveway. Mrs. Comfort's brother and his wife, their daughter, her husband, and their twin sons all spilled out. "Welcome," said Mr. Comfort. "Sit down, sit down." "Oh, let's push 2 more tables together so we can all sit together," said Mrs. Comfort's brother's wife. The Comfort's daughter and her husband got up to help. "But that won't work," said Mrs. Comfort. I'm outside, so you're hearing all kinds of trucks drive by or the birds singing. "You're so right," Mr. Comfort said. "We'll have to push 2 more tables together." "But that won't work either," said Mrs. Comfort. "You're right," said Mrs. Comfort's brother. Look at Miss Comfort. She's so worried. Everybody's changing her plan. "Make way!" shouted Mrs. Comfort's brother and the Comfort's son-in-law. They each carried over a table and put them side by side. "You don't understand," Mrs. Comfort sighed. "My plan was—" But nobody heard her. Everyone was too busy. "Save some of that garlic bread for me," a new arrival called. "Me too, me too, me too," three more voices piped in. "Well, let's see who's here," said Mrs. Comfort's brother's daughter's husband. It was the Comfort's next-door neighbors with their daughter and son. "Hello, hello," said Mr. Comfort. "So glad to see you. Have a seat while I get more garlic bread." "But there is no place for them to sit," said Mrs. Comfort. "Don't worry," said Mrs. Comfort's brother's wife. "We'll just divide these tables into 2 groups of 4. "Go ahead," Miss Comfort said, "but I'm telling you when." "You fret too much," said Mr. Comfort. "Bread, anyone?" When all of the tables had been arranged, everyone sat down. "See, Mom," the Comfort's daughter said. "It worked out just fine." Mrs. Comfort sighed. "Hiya, hiya, hiya," boomed another familiar voice. Mr. Comfort's mother, father, and their little terrier strolled in. "Hello, Grandma. Hello, Grandpa," the Comfort's daughters shouted. "Oh, dear," said Mrs. Comfort. "Where are they going to sit?" Look at Miss Comfort. "No problem," said Mr. and Mrs. Comfort's next-door neighbor. "If we just push all 8 tables into one line, there will be enough room for everyone." "Actually," Miss Comfort began to explain. "Absolutely," said Mr. Comfort. He was carrying several big bowls of salad. "Better move faster. This salad will be really tossed." No sooner had everyone gotten settled than when Mrs. Comfort's mother and father drove up in their yellow convertible. "Hello, Grammy! Hello, Gramps!" the Comfort's daughter shouted. Mrs. Comfort put down her fork. "Oh, dear," she said. "Don't worry, we're all family, right?" Gramps said. "Let's just split this long line of tables in 2. There will be plenty of room for us to squeeze in." "But it still isn't going to work because," Mrs. Comfort started to say, a bowl of salad slid into her lap. "Sorry," said one of Mrs. Comfort's brother's daughter's twin sons. Mr. and Mrs. Comfort and their 18 relatives and neighbors were finally all seated. They passed the salad and the bread. They shared the celery and the olives. And when they heard a cheery, "Hi, everyone," most of them held on to their plates. The Comfort son and his wife pedaled in on a bike for two. Their twin daughters rolled in on skates. Didn't I tell you, Mrs. Comfort said, "there's not enough room?" "No problem, Mom," said the Comfort son. "We'll just divide these two lines of tables into 4 pairs. Okie dokie?" The big bumblebee that just buzzed by. Wait, you're all forgetting something," said Mrs. Comfort. We're at a salad over here," the Comfort's daughter said. Don't put tomatoes on mine," said the Comfort's next door's neighbor's son. "Is there more garlic bread?" asked Mrs. Comfort's mother. "Who's got my silverware?" asked Mr. Comfort's father. "Hey!" Mrs. Comfort's brother's daughter's son said to his twin brother, "That's my bread you're eating." "Get your fingers out of my salad," the Comfort's son's daughter said to her twin sister. "Don't play with your food," said the Comfort son's wife. "What did you say?" asked Mr. Comfort. "I said," Mrs. Comfort said. There's a lot going on here, isn't there? Have you ever had family dinners where it's like that everybody's talking and you can't keep track of anything? That's what's happening here. Beep, beep. A big red van parked at the curb. Out jumped Mrs. Comfort's sister with her husband and their triplets. All 3 of the triplets had brought their boyfriends, who were also triplets. "Now, do you see what I mean?" Mrs. Comfort asked. "Where are they all going to sit?" "Well, my dearest," said Mr. Comfort, "I haven't served the spaghetti yet. We'll just move a few chairs, reset a few plates, and there will be plenty of room for everyone." "I give up," said Mrs. Comfort. She sat down in her chair and didn't budge. You can kind of see her right here. She's given up. "I say we divide the 4 pairs of tables into 8 single tables," Mrs. Comfort's brother said. He and his wife moved 1 pair of tables apart. The triplets and their boyfriends moved the other 3 pairs. "You see," said Mrs. Comfort, "it all worked out." "I see everything is back exactly the way I had it," said Mrs. Comfort. "I knew you'd think of something," said Mr. Comfort. "Now, how many meatballs would you like?" So there he is serving, and look at her original seating plan, and that's how it turned out. The end. So this right here was just some things that I could do to challenge you, to give you ideas. But I read this book to Addison and Kinsley, and I guess it was a few days later, Addison brought me a journal, and she said, "Mom, I want you to check this out." She made a word problem and then drew out an illustration and gave a multiplication equation with it and an answer. Listen to this problem. She said, "Mr. Sad is having a party. He has 8 tables. Each table has 6 chairs. How many chairs are there in all?" So she drew out her 8 tables with 6 chairs on each, and then she kind of skip counted each one, and she did 6 chairs for each table for 8 tables, and there's going to be 48 chairs. So she said Mr. Sad has 48 chairs in all. Now, here's my challenge. Make up a word problem. How many people are going to come to your party? How many tables are you going to have? How many chairs are you going to have? See if you can come up with your own word problem. Solve it out, or just send it to me if you want to do it on Dojo or Flipgrid, wherever you want to do it. And I will even solve the problem for you if you want me to. But if you want to solve it, that's cool too. Hope you guys have a great day and enjoy this book, Spaghetti and Meatballs for All. Bye.